The old relationship we had with the United States, based on deepening integration of our economies and tight security and military cooperations, is over. What exactly the United States does next is unclear. But what is clear is that we, as Canadians, have agency. We have power. We are masters in our own home. Nous sommes maîtres chez nous.
Maybe, but then again, we have to contend now with 25% auto tariffs, at least for the time being. Scott Reid's going to talk about this and more. CTV political analyst, former advisor to Prime Minister Paul Martin. And our feature, as always, brought to you by Guaranteed Industries, reminding you, with the cooler weather now here and the warmer weather soon to appear, you want to stay either warm or cool. Either way, it doesn't matter. Make sure your system is up to snuff. Give them a call, 514-342-3400, or online, guaranteedindustries.com, now teaming up with Canair Control Systems. Scott, a busy day, but then again, it seems every day since this campaign was officially called has been one. Today, though, it's all about these auto tariffs that Donald Trump announced late yesterday afternoon. Do we take as a win, I'm asking kind of oddly here, that Donald Trump, we were told, reached out to finally make that call to Mark Carney, and it was not the other way around?
I suppose. But, it's a signal of really astonishing disrespect that it took this long. And I don't think that reflects negatively on Prime Minister Carney. I think it's a sign of how indifferent Donald Trump is toward allies, neighbors, countries that America's been aligned with forever, and how inviting he is to those who are traditional enemies. And it's an astonishing up is down, cats living with dogs, goofy, weird world. But this is what we're in. And so that resolute tone you heard from Carney, I think, is important, because much of what he's saying is, guys, there's no going back. Like, there'll be a bunch of jerking around where the tariffs won't be implemented exactly as said, and maybe on April 2nd we will get some exemptions, or maybe there will be others. But you no longer have a partner in the United States. We no longer have an economy that is a surefire recipient of all of our goods. We no longer have that paycheck that will get signed as the world's largest economy being our customer. Like, we're going to have to figure out a different path. It's not fair, it's not right, it's not reasonable, but it is, unfortunately, the lives in which we are been plunged. And I think his tone was reassuring, but his message is, unfortunately, truthfully, really, really alarming.
Alarming in what sense?
Alarming in the fact of it, in the fact that the United States is happy to go to war with us. The United States isn't going to be there for us. So what is Canada as one half of the North American continent without the United States? How do we move forward? How do we Trump-proof our economy? How do we build new alliances, new markets? How do we change the way we do things internally? Like, the whole prescription for 70 years, militarily, security-wise, economically, it's all gone to just about said a bad word. Yeah. It's all gone to rat stuff on us. And that's the reality of it. That's the challenge for Mark Carney, for Pierre Poilievre, whoever gets to inherit the position of Prime Minister. That's the new set of cards that we've been dealt.
It's interesting. I was talking about this, asking listeners for their reaction with respect to, do we retaliate, as all the political leaders seem to suggest we should, or do we wait, see how this plays out? Because we know Donald Trump changes his mind as often as he does his underwear. So maybe it's a matter of waiting to see what's next. But to your point, and this is fascinating, I had a few people weigh in saying, you know what, our relationship with the U.S. has been changed now forever. And my contention was, no, it's only one guy. He's going to be there for 4 years. Then we can get back to normal. Do you believe that?
I hope so, but I think there is, first of all, once your wife cheats on you, or you cheat on your wife, that relationship of trust, that partnership is busted. It's broken. And maybe you find some way to patch it up and move forward, but that seal, that bond is busted up. And so we can't trust Donald Trump, and we can't trust the United States insofar as twice these people have seen fit to put that man with all his flaws, all his delusions, all his criminal instincts in power. So that's why I don't know that we can just go, well, you know what? Don't worry about it. We can go back. Because now the lesson to us, surely, if we have a half a brain cell, is don't be so sure they won't pick the next guy. They've told us that they're willing to go this way. So we have to figure out how we protect ourselves.
All right, so let me go back to this whole auto tariff situation, which got sprung on us yesterday by surprise. It's not supposed to go into effect until another couple of days. I guess April 3rd is that drop-dead date. What do you think the approach here has to be? Everyone's talked about retaliation. We know this potentially affects literally hundreds of thousands of jobs in this country. What's the best approach here in terms of dealing with this?
Yeah, it's going to be an unsatisfactory answer. And I think in some ways Carney was signaling that too today. And you heard it from Doug Ford and others. Look, we are in a negotiation, so we're going to have to engage with the madman. But it is kind of like when Batman has to talk to the Joker. Like, it's kind of hard to really rely on anything that's said, but you have to. So we have to hope that there's some exemptions or some recognition, some ability to persuade that, you know what, cars aren't made in America or Canada. They're made in North America. That's how it is now. A Canadian car, that is to say a car that leaves Canada, has 55% of its raw materials from the United States, 50% of its electronic components from the United States. So we have to negotiate to try to persuade people about all these things. But we must deal from a position of strength. Trump is a bully, and bullies smell weakness. So even as he threatens that he'll make it worse on us if we push back, we must push back, because the only thing that he respects is strength. We saw it before. As soon as Doug Ford said, I'm going to turn off the tap electricity-wise, there was a massive reaction and response. So we have to do the same thing. We have to be willing to make the threat in order to get to a better place. But we're going to be just punching and pushing our way through. I do think we have to threaten retaliation. And I do think, by the way, that this thing is probably going to end up with a fight over energy. I think that is the one really big card we have. And we're going to have to play it on them, whether Danielle Smith and her Ben Shapiro kissing self likes it.
Speaking of which, are you surprised Danielle Smith in this case, is pushing back as hard as she is?
No, nothing surprises me with her. But, I mean, literally, like, she's campaigning to be, Philippe Pétain. I mean, Pétain. It's a Vichy government. Her ideas. I mean, we could have another explosive moment in this campaign. I will bet you $1 she's been working hard to negotiate some backdoor deal of privileged access, an energy corridor for oil and gas from Alberta that would be exempted from tariffs on her own, independent of the federal government, trying to appease and curry up to the Americans. And that's going to split the country if she does something like that. How can you sit down with somebody, as she is today, with someone who said that Canada isn't even a country? Give me a break.
Yeah, I don't know what that's about. I mean, it was one thing to say she should be able to say what she wants to say, but to sit down with someone who's actually, as you just said, come out and said that, I don't understand, and I wonder, how much backlash she eventually is going to face, if any, even from people in Alberta.
The problem is that she's peddled the same trash that these guys peddle. She's trafficked in the same, anti-science, anti-elite nonsense, which makes a lot of people sitting around, drinking a beer go, yeah, damn right. Yeah. Except it isn't actually right. And the limits of that anger, when translated into actually trying to govern, are what we're witnessing now.
Scott, I just want to ask one last thing, and I'd heard this earlier in the day. So here you have Mark Carney, who in the middle of an election race now, and this is kind of crazy to consider this is all happening while someone's trying to become the next prime minister of this country. So now he's acting with his prime ministerial hat to try to get this done. Does he have to sit down with the other political leaders to try to work this out concurrently? How would that work?
Well, I don't know how much he can sit down with the other political leaders. I think he can offer to brief them and inform them. I think he should make every effort to take the window of being prime minister and make it as brief as possible. I think that the things he's announced make sense. Deal with Trump, reconvene cabinet, meet with all the premiers. Don't forget, the premiers represent all three political parties. We have Liberal, Conservative, and New Democrats. Consult with some business leaders, and then get back to the trail, right?
Okay.
I don't think you can't pause the campaign forever. You can't take advantage of the fact that you're the prime minister forever. On the other hand, you have the obligation of being prime minister in a moment of crisis.
Yeah.
Nothing about this is precedent. I can remember my old boss in the middle of an election had to go and do a foreign trip, so we had to switch planes, and he had to go become prime minister for 2 days. But that wasn't in the middle of a crisis.
Yeah.
He wasn't forced into being prime minister again because the country had to make necessary and consequential decisions. This is a really unprecedented. I don't think there's precedent in the last 100 years for this. And by the way, on a raw political analysis, it's incredibly difficult for Pierre Poilievre. Because suddenly he's trying to find his way into this discussion, but he looks and sounds and acts like a partisan politician who's trying to score points. And people are going, no, I'm worried I'm going to get a pink slip next week. So I don't want partisan banter. I want a prime ministerial effect. And so that puts the opposition leader by definition in a challenge. And Pierre Poilievre in particular has shown that he isn't really willing to play this game. They're still trying to say, look, the core of the campaign isn't Trump and tariffs. It's time for a change, as though it were still 6 months ago. And it ain't 6 months ago. The whole world has turned on its head.
Scott Reid. Scott, always appreciate it. Thanks so much.